Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, that sound means GMO Tuesday has arrived. Today we're going to take a minute because the Genetic Literacy Project is questioning the Biden administration with this question. Will the Biden administration follow the science on agriculture biotechnology regulatory reform? It's been about 35 years. I think it was in 1985, 86, somewhere in that area, where they came up with the United States Coordinated Framework for the Regulation of Biotechnology. Have you ever heard of it? Yeah, somewhere our taxes are paying for it. Don't ask me what they do. Oh, that's right, they regulate biotechnology. In other words, the CRISPR technology they're using to make vaccines with right now. mRNA? Mm-hmm. Let me read you a little bit of this is my question. This is why I want to talk about this administration. We have already seen them in a vast attempt to exert total domination and control over us, mandating vaccines, telling us we can't go to a funeral, telling us we can't go to a wedding, telling us we have to watch our favorite restaurant close because they can't keep the lights on anymore because they've had to close their business, telling our children they have to suffocate themselves and breathe dirty, filthy air back into their lungs through a sweaty mask when the people who are telling them to do that know better. So you have to ask yourself, what type, how are they going to control? We're already hearing supply chain, supply chain, supply chain, supply chain. You're hearing truckers, truck drivers on the dock saying, hey, here's my truck, load me up, I'm ready to go. But they're independent truck drivers, and they're not beholden to a union, which makes them not beholden to the Biden administration. Funny how that works. The OSTP now has the perfect opportunity for President Biden to make good on his repeated promises to always follow the science. The POS has not followed any science since he was anointed dipshit in the office, whatever you want to call him, because if he actually followed the science, he would know it is mathematically impossible when you have 139 registered voters. If the other guy gets 74 million votes, you cannot get 81 million votes. If he followed the science, we wouldn't have to be asking his administration if he's going to follow the science on genetic engineering of your food. There is a widespread and long-standing consensus in the scientific community that molecular genetic engineering techniques are more precise and predictable than older conventional techniques. After 35 years, pay attention to this statement here. I'm going to put this in the description, okay? After 35 years of real-world experience with genetically engineered plants, hang on and hold on to that. Hold on to that for just a minute. 35 years of real world experience. When they told us they weren't doing this. Think about this for just a minute. Genetically engineered plants for 35 years. They didn't get the green light on this shit until 1992. They're in the 85, 86 area right now. 1992 is when Dan, I can't spell potato quail, green lights GMO technology in the food supply. We're not going to make your corn chips with GMO corn. We're just going to feed it to the cow. So you eat the shit when you eat your prime rib. Yeah, that's how they did it. So you got to ask. You got to ask this question. After 35 years of real world experience with genetic engineering, who are they experimenting on those first 7 years? That they're not supposed to be in our food supply, that nobody knew anything about. And I'm sorry, but this is on Uncle Ronnie's watch now. This is when the vice president who went to Monsanto and said, hey, we're in the dereg business. You need to call me. This is before he went and had that conversation. I want you to think about that for just a minute. Okay? Let that sink in. For 35 years, they've been playing with our food. 92 is when they let them in completely. That was when Michael Taylor gave us the paper. It walks like a duck. It must be a duck. Oh my goodness, it looks like corn, so it is corn. Hey, a soybean. 98% glyphosate soybean. They don't tell you any of that part. Real world experience with genetically engineered plants and microorganisms and countless risk assessment experiments. And what they're not saying in that phrase, countless risk assessment experiments performed by the scientists we paid to perform them and tell you what we want you to know. It is past time to reevaluate the rationale for and the cost and benefits of the case by case reviews of genetically engineered products and how I can make all the money in the world because I own Monsanto stock, or now Bayer Life Sciences. But the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, the USDA, and the FDA, all of those those agencies have not done their job when it comes to protecting the food supply. None of them have done their job when it comes to protecting the food supply. Um, and of course, now the genetic literacy project, science, not ideology, is exactly that, ideology, because it is all bought and paid for by yours truly, the chemical and pharmaceutical industry. And oh man, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. They have an anti-GMO adversary funding tracker. In other words, you're a bad person if you don't want poison in your food and you're anti-GMO, because not wanting poison in your food right off the top makes you an anti-GMO person. An anti-GMO person. So they're going to try to shame. We'll get this link up there in the description too. They're going to try to shame people for donating to, say, mothers across America that don't want the vaccines. They don't want you spraying poison in the air around their properties. People who don't want to eat synthetic meats, corns, soybeans. People who don't want to eat fake rice because it's no good. They're going to try to shame you because you donated money to organizations like the or get what is the one there's an organic group, Organic Consumers Association. That's the one I'm thinking of. Uh, but it's just, man, this stuff is insane, ladies and gentlemen. It is insane. Let me grab a couple clips here.
You're looking for inventory selection with your CBD oils in 125, 250, and 500 milligram strengths. Tahoe CBD is your complete sublingual tincture and e-liquid enhancer. Stop. TahoeCBD.com. That's TahoeCBD.com. 1-800-580-1655. Give Jack and Stacy a call today. Made in the USA. they will get you squared away.
I'm at St. Luke's. I had to come get a stick stuck up my frickin' nose because of this deadly pandemic virus. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. There's another mask right there. Here's another mask right here. Masks are everywhere, and this is a medical facility. If this frickin' disease, if this frickin' virus is so deadly, where are the hazmat disposal containers at the hospital? Why are these masks laying all over the hospital? Food for thought, ladies and gentlemen, food for thought. It's Alliday Mobile Media. Let's have a great day, and let's all be safe out there, huh?
Busy time keeping up with him. Time out for many men of medicine usually means just long enough to enjoy a cigarette. And because they know what a pleasure it is to smoke a mild, good-tasting cigarette, they're particular about the brand they choose. In a repeated national survey, doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" Once again, the brand named most was Camel. Yes, according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Why not change to Camels for the next 30 days and see what a difference it makes in your smoking enjoyment? See how Camels agree with your throat. See how mild and good-tasting a cigarette can be.
Attack what you describe as the billionaire dictators, especially one man, I should say, Bill Gates, who you describe as the Christopher Columbus, I'm quoting you, of modern times, and that's not a compliment, obviously, whose mission is to impose, quote-unquote, genetically modified organisms and digital dictatorship to small farmers across the world. Bill Gates, who's donated billions to improve public health in poor countries and so on, you're saying essentially he's a dictator and he's there not to help, but to make people poorer, more dependent.
Well, Bill Gates is actually continuing the work of Monsanto because Monsanto had so many movements, and we held a tribunal on Monsanto. A buyer bought up Monsanto, but when Bill Gates pours money into Africa for feeding the poor in Africa and preventing famine, what's he doing? He's pushing the failed green revolution. He's pushing chemicals, pushing GMOs, pushing patents, and now pushing new...
Knowingly, or he thinks it's a good thing and he may be wrong?
Well,
it's not the same thing.
There's enough evidence of what it does. There are enough letters to him from farmers of Africa, from governments of Africa to say, this is not the way to go. The United Nations accepts agroecology, working with ecological systems, as the best way to go. Now, Bill Gates is trying very hard to shift the patenting issue now to digital. So you just take a genomic map and you say, my invention, you don't create a seed. Seed is self-organized, self-making, and evolution in continuity. Just by making a map, a genome, and you have no idea what the seed does. And this is something he's pushing very, very hard. My book records how he financed DivSeek. I've talked about how he's pirated seeds we have saved that tolerate salt and floods. And he says invention. This biopiracy is a bit like Columbus, where Columbus is supposed to have discovered America when he basically went as a pirate. Why do I call him today's Columbus? Because he's carving out new colonies. Software should have stayed open software.
So you say he has a strategy, a nefarious strategy, what you describe as philanthrocapitalism, is a nefarious enterprise. And so you're not saying he's using the wrong methods, he's pursuing a wrong goal with self-interest. You also attack Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, saying they're all linked together. I mean, this reeks a bit of conspiracy theory, doesn't it?
Well, my book is based on the new evidence that's coming out. All you have to do is see the ownership, and I have data in the book on how there's common ownership. We stopped Mark Zuckerberg from trying to get into Indian agriculture. It was a big mobilization of people who believe in the open internet.
What did he want to do?
Well, basically what they do is they mine the data from the farmers, And right now, all over the world, there's new debates on privacy issues, on the data mining. There's new books on new form of capitalism, which is surveillance capitalism, where you basically have turned human beings into your new raw material. So Bill Gates does both. He takes living resources and our seeds and biodiversity, mines it into data and wants ownership along with his friends. And Mark Zuckerberg mines your data and your behaviors and turns it into the raw material, both of corporate world for selling things, which is why strange advertisements pop up after you've sent a message to a friend, and manipulating elections. I have a chapter in the book on the hijack of democracy. You have enough data on what happened with Facebook selling data to Cambridge Analytica and how we are popping up with artificial intelligence leaders. This is a major threat to democracy.
So this is why you're calling them billionaire dictators, because you think they're not helping democracy, but actually threatening and even killing it? I mean, isn't this too much?
No, I have grown up in an India that was post-independence. I've grown up in an India that had absolutely no corporations. I've grown up in an India where democracy works. And therefore, when I see the imposition of digital transactions and criminalization of cash between poor people, I basically see this as a dictatorship. I call it digital dictatorship. When I watch, not just in India, but in Africa and other parts of the world, now that we have the data that is showing that native seeds have more nutrition, they produce more food, they have no cost because you don't have to use chemicals, that local biodiversity is the way to feeding the world, in spite of all that evidence, in spite of the evidence in the United Nations, in the FAO, in UNCTAD, every agency, Bill Gates is still imposing and forcing GMOs, which is a failed enterprise. And he's not just imposing GMOs, he's taking what has failed and rejected by governments. My government threw the BT aubergine of Monsanto out. Bill Gates resurrects it in Bangladesh. We rejected the golden rice for solving the problem of blindness. He finances it to continue through Philippines. So he's taking all the failed projects with the wrong thinking that life is like a word program and can be chopped and cut and pasted, when it's an amazing complexity of self-organization. And scientists call it autopoiesis, self-organization, writing your own poetry. That's what life does. He is absolutely ignoring all of this new knowledge that new science is giving us and imposing a failed technology with a huge cost to the planet, only so there can be monopolies and people and farmers aren't free to have their seed.
Vandana Shiva, obviously you have strong views and we're happy that you were able to share them with us. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to talk to you about one of the most unique farmers markets on the planet. LakeTahoeMarkets.com brings the market to you. This is one of the only farmers markets that I have ever seen. They have what they call market bags. They contain certified USDA organic fruits and vegetables that are free of fertilizers, pesticides, and of course, genetically modified organisms. In addition, the freshest produce available to the Lake Tahoe Basin. You can add farm fresh eggs, beef jerky, local honey, organic spices, locally made barbecue sauce, empanadas, good googly wooglies, and non-toxic skincare products, canned nuts, so much more. You can order individual bags each week. Sign up for a subscription and get free delivery. Tell me a farmer's market. That's a deal you can't beat. Tahoe Basin's online farmers market, free delivery to the North Shore on Monday, South Shore on Tuesday. Lake Tahoe markets bring the market to you. www.laketahoemarkets.com. That's www.laketahoemarkets.com. So is there any coincidence that the Grocery Manufacturers Association is one of the biggest supporters of the agriculture industry and the chemical industry? I mean, it's not a secret. The first chemical that we know that was bad for us was entered into the food supply by Coca-Cola. It was called saccharin. Nobody really knew it was bad at the time, but I'd be willing to bet John Queeny knew that it could have adverse effects. Um, but what do you see? Do you see them trying to control the food supply? You see them squeezing right now. There's absolutely no reason these ships. I look. I follow a site on the Watch the Water. It's on, the guy's on YouTube, and he's always doing stuff. You can go back and look at his stuff for the last 6 months. This shit's only happened in the last month. There hasn't been no backups in the last for 6 months like these people are saying in their clips. Oh, this has been going on for 6 months. No, it hasn't. It has not been going on for 6 months. It's developed within the last month. It's developed because they administration that is in office right now, in my humble opinion, want to control everything you do. I made this analogy this morning. I want you to think about something for a minute. Somebody asked a question in one of the platforms I'm on, and they said, why is the bank pushing to stop this $600? Do they not, do they just want to keep the rich people? And this has nothing to do with rich people. I want you to think about something for just a minute. Say you make 15 bucks an hour. You get paid bi-weekly or every other week. So you get paid twice a month. Those two transactions, because they're going to be over 600 bucks, $15, 40 hours a week is 600 bucks. So you're getting 1,200 bucks minus taxes. You're going to come out with two checks per month over $600. So there's two transactions that they go do. Let's say you pay your rent. Okay, your rent is $700. There's your third transaction. This is just you. There are 250 million banking customers in the country that have that side. I'm guessing at the 250 million number. Don't quote me on that. I'm just kind of ballparking something based on the population in the United States right now. I'm guessing I mean, I had a savings and I didn't have a checking account, but I had a savings account that I could go put my money in when I mowed lawns, sold pumpkins and gourds in the fall, flowers, whatever we were doing as a kid, whatever kind of, fundraising thing we had for ourselves, not, for some charity, but we would do things and go make, we had a Kool-Aid stand, sold lemonade to the contractors that were building the houses and stuff like that. When we were kids, we always put that in a savings account. So at 325 million, 330 million, or 40 million people in the country, 250 million, I'm ballparking. That's how many people have a bank account. But let's okay, let's just say there's 200 million people. We'll make everything easy. 200 million people with a checking account that have that scenario going for them. They make over $600 in a pay period. Twice a month that money gets deposited, and they pay their rent for $700 a month. That's 600 million notifications the banking industry has to send the IRS. How absurd is this frickin' concept? That's nothing more than the government wanting to get in your business, and they have no business in your business. This is one of the reasons people took up arms against the King of England, because he got tyrannical, he got pushy, he got bossy. He said, hey, you're not giving me enough, you have to give me more. Oh, no, you can't do that. You can't drink tea without having a tax on it. Oh my God, give me the sugar. Let me put a tax on that. You want cinnamon? We'll put a tax on that. And it was like, hey, wait a minute. You don't represent us. We live 3,000 miles from you. Shut the fuck up and get out of here. That's basically what happened. And now it's a kind of a little tough concept to wrap your head around when you see the government doing what they're doing, because they're not making a secret of things anymore. It's out in the open. It's out in the open. So what is it they want to do? Do they want a Hunger Games scenario? Is that where we're headed? Yeah. Really kind of makes you wonder now, doesn't it? For Holiday Mobile Media. Until next time, folks, happy gardening. Let's have a great day. Let's all be safe out there, huh?